Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive with OA. I am Omar Abedin, currently head of investments at TMT Ventures. Today, I have quite a remarkable guest, and he's remarkable for a number of reasons, which you'll come to see very, very shortly. Jeremy Barr, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Omar, for having me.
So Jeremy is a bundle of energy and benefits, right? So he's a VC at Montelier Capital. He's a founder of a very interesting concept called the rocket mindset. And he's also invented a concept called the gravity ball. Before we start talking about these quite deep ideas and concepts, Jeremy, can you just give our audience an intro, please?
Yeah, absolutely. High-level intro about me. Everything I do is geared towards impacting 3 billion people worldwide. So that means I'll need to run, invest, advise in hundreds of companies globally. That also necessitates me to build out the world's largest investor and founder network. I have a global founder investor network right now. I build it out by the hour, getting on calls, 10 to 13 calls a day, 300 calls a month. But you still have a challenge once you put all the money. I'm a VC investor and a founder mentor. Once you put all the money from all the investors, say, to the founders, you still have a challenge where founders will burn through it because there are not a lot of high quality, high scale founders in the world. You know this heuristically because there's not a less than 5% of companies actually hit any meaningful scale. So 95% of companies are already not scalable. Therefore, you don't have the scalable founders and leaders. And so that is the bottleneck. So instead of being like every other investor or VC investor or angel investor, fighting to find the next Airbnb or Uber CEO, et cetera, I go about creating them. And so I use my experience. I've been at $1 million and $1 billion companies, D2C, B2B, public and private, managed teams of people. I've done and managed nearly everyone in a company, from sales and copywriting and customer service and product and engineering and analytics, accounting, etc. All at different high levels. I wrote artificial intelligence on a project with the FBI and Secret Service, built a super website. And so I'm using those experiences to rapidly up-level humans. I say humans on purpose, founders, leaders, and ultimately humans. So that is a high level for me, involved with different venture studios. And we can get more into those things as well, but that's a high level intro. So I care mostly about high quality human beings. And so I look for those high quality human beings that value all other human beings as well.
Yes, and I've noticed that in our interactions, you're always talking about people. You're not talking about technology as much because your focus is on building that perfect founder. So let's talk about that. What makes a great founder, and how do we make them? How do we mass produce them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, even like as an investor, right, I will look for, where do I want to invest? One, I believe in a beautiful world, and a beautiful world is made by beautiful people, and I really love all humans. But also when we and to make impact to the world, whether we want to create a new form of entertainment or create something really, really interesting in the world, or solve big problems in the world like cancer, world hunger, anxiety, depression, etc. Large groups of people do more than singular people. And so a lot of times we call these groups of people companies. And so I focus on companies. Companies are a vehicle for change, for impact, for making beauty, et cetera. So whether it's for making impact or whether it's for investment purposes, when we look at a company, if you were to make a rigorous decision for investment or for like, is this company going to be successful towards the impact goals that they want? You look and you say, okay, well, what products and services are they doing? But the product and service together combined into product. Product is going to mutate based on market needs, customer needs, desires, and the employees as you scale that company. And so investing or looking at a company based on product and product lineup isn't a rigorous decision. Products are going to mutate and product lineup is going to change. So then you want to look at founder, because founder is the thing that's going to create the rest of the team that's going to make those mutations and make the execution that's going to go well or not. You look at founder and you say, well, their sales and their engineering skills and et cetera skills that they might come in with, you might want to analyze that, but that's also going to be dwarfed when you have 5 employees, 500 employees, 1,000 employees, et cetera. So then we can't look at product or product lineup or the idea of the company as a rigorous decision. Those things will change. We can't look at their skills because of at least the marketing, sales, and engineering, because that's going to be dwarfed. So then what we really want to look at is a term I call gravity ball. We want every founder to be a gravity ball. This is what I invest based on. When I look at somebody to invest in them and in their company, I look past the idea and I look at their ability to be a gravity ball. What is a gravity ball? A gravity ball, the primary thesis for investment, and really anyone could do this, and in my ideal world should. The primary element of gravity well is the ability to attract investors, partners, customers, and employees, those four, at scale. So to become a good gravity ball as a founder, instead of working and focusing on your idea and how do I make this better and how do I sell that better, becoming a great human being is essential to running a high scale company to become that gravity ball. So to become a great gravity ball, we want to be able to have you, or to even recognize that you are one, or to practice one, same thing, is go and talk to a wide variety of people of different genders, different political parties, different races, different cultures, different countries, different education levels, different income levels, different personalities, different ages. I think we covered that one. Talk to a lot of different people, be able to communicate to and relate to all of those different types of people. That is what's essential in your ability to become a gravity ball. And you can notice it when you first talk to somebody right away, is they can have, with a chameleon-like nature, adjust on the fly on a second-by-second nature. As soon as they get into a call, they know, after talking to so many different people like that all around the world, like I talk to 8 different countries a day, they know how to adjust to the person right in front of them, and they start by listening. So you see these listening eyes, as opposed to somebody that comes in with some sort of pitch or some sort of agenda. They start with these listening eyes. They start with questions. They gather information because they know they need to be adaptive. Therefore, you have to gather information so you know what you're adapting to. So at a high level, that is the concept of the gravity ball, and that's a core starting piece.
So that's amazing, right? So a lot of people talk about investing in the founder, as you know, especially at early stage companies. But I haven't met anyone else who's kind of laid it out so methodically as to why the founder is the keystone, you know, that is going to drive the success of the company. You're absolutely right that talking to a lot of people broadens your vision. You know, I stopped telling people that I spoke to 1,000 founders last year or in the last 18 months, because they wouldn't believe me. They'd be like, who is that crazy? And I'm so happy to meet someone crazier than me, who talks to like 300 people a month. It's, you know, people don't understand how that is possible because they don't have that, what's the word? That
Perspective,
willingness.
probably, I would say.
Yeah, perspective, that willingness to engage with hundreds of people repeatedly, some of them asking the same questions, but everyone coming from a slightly different place, just, you know, marginally different. And it's like, you know, when you put your thumbprint on a phone and it asks you to move your thumbprint around so that it captures your full thumb, and then it says you're at 60%, 70%, 90%. Oh, well done, we got your thumbprint. It's the same way with meeting people, right? You meet enough founders in a vertical, you know that vertical, you know that founder. So that's brilliant. I love it. And honestly, the idea of a gravity ball is something that I think many people will subconsciously have thought of over time, but never been able to put words to. So I love the concept, and with your permission, I'm going to be using it because I think
Absolutely.
it's such a heavy concept, really. It's a very deep concept, and it's like an onion. The more layers you peel off of that gravity ball, the heavier and denser it gets until you get to the core, right? So that's fantastic. Okay, so now, how do you take one founder and, you know, then multiply that to 1,000 founders, and then multiply that to the hundreds of thousands of founders you need to impact to reach your 3 billion figure? I mean, that's, you know, 3/8 of the planet, right? So how does that work?
Yep. So I will answer that in a 2-part. One is, how do I scale the founder and leadership coaching? And I will talk about that. The other one is how we get to the 3 billion number. So how we get to the 3 billion number is when we make great founders and they make great leaders in their company, and they have a cascading effect to their individual contributors in the org chart and then that's one way of scaling towards 3 billion people. But then you look at each of the companies that we spin up where we made those great founders that made great executing teams, and we say, what are each of those companies doing? Are they going and solving cancer, like my mom passed from 4 years ago? Are they going and solving world hunger? Are they solving anxiety? Like, what are they solving, right? And I always list those off. Those aren't particular ones necessarily. We're going to be working on a lot more than those. But So when we count up the 3 billion people, because I've been in like analytics departments of companies before, ultimately how we're going to measure the tracking to 3 billion people is looking in the analytics department of each company and how many customers they have impacted, right? So when I and my team go to impact the founders, those founders then go on to impact a certain set of customers that then add up to the 3 billion people. And for me, the counting of 3 billion people isn't just like, oh, we made an app for you. That's not impact. Impact for me is it affecting 80% of that customer's life? The example being when my mom passed from cancer, if we were to have solved cancer for her, she would consider that at least an 80% impact to her life, right? If not 100%, right? So that is where there's a significance behind the 3 billion people. It's a heavy impact to somebody's life where they, in their value system, particularly in their value system, not mine, I don't want to push an agenda on the world. Everybody lives in their own value system. In their value system, they would say it's an 80% impact in their life. So counted up by the customer analytics departments, get to 3 billion people. So then we get to scaling the founder coaching. So I do the rapid up leveling of founders. Rapid is being key. I do that through the mentoring that I do one-on-one. I have managed teams of people. I have trained people to train people to train people. I've done that successfully in the past. I currently get on weekly calls with other founders and leaders that will be future trainers, to where I'm not just the only one doing it one-on-one. I am already training people successfully to do what I am doing. So it's in a sense that like I have like this secret sauce in a sense, not too secret. I do talk about it enough, but there's defensibility to it, and there's all kinds of defensibility math to what we're doing in terms of where that's needed. But also I believe in a collaborative world, so there's collaborative portions as well, very very measured out. So I do the one-on-ones, and I'm training a team of people, and I'm also releasing videos. Short 5 to 8 minute videos, because podcasts for an hour long can be long, right? And they don't always get watched at scale when there's so many of them. And so I have part of the thesis for rocket mindset, rocket being speed, mindset being what we need in founders, right? Rocket mindset is these 5 to 8 minute videos. And so I have 100 plus 5 to 8 minute videos on leadership and on founders, and I release them daily on at least some free ones on the activity section of my LinkedIn. I get on podcasts like this, sharing these ideas out so that we can train up the founders quicker, because every time I make a video or I get on a podcast and I talk about these concepts or any of the other concepts through the 5 to 8 minute bursts, that allows founders to get transformed without me necessarily one-on-one touching them. I had one founder in Africa reach out to me. They said they just found me through the videos on my LinkedIn, and they now have daily meetings where they're watching my 5 minute videos, 5 to 10 minute videos over an hour. Every morning they're watching it for 30 minutes on a projector, taking notes. And I just heard about this like a month ago, which was wild and fun for me, that they get a projector out every morning, take notes, and then change what they're doing in their company based on what I said in that 5 to 8 minute video. This is an example of how I didn't have to go in one-on-one, but that they're already changing. One of the guys in that company, their wife had come into the company and said, "What's going on?" Because my husband took us and the family to the park for the first time, because of the mindset work that I was teaching the company. That guy ended up overworking so much, and he took his wife and kids to the park for the first time. And the wife wanted to come in. "What are you guys doing to change the company?" And then they pointed to the videos I was doing, and so it's just, that's an example of like where I didn't one-on-one touch somebody, but you're hitting more scale. And so that is part of the focus there, is training up a team of people to do what I do, and then they train people and making sure that as you train people that train people through the levels, that does well. And because I've managed teams of people before, I have done that measurement of like, is what I'm training getting through the levels? Because there can be a percentage of drop off typically, and any leader who's done that knows that can be hard. So I do have a focus on that, and then as well as the videos and the podcasts that I get on as well. That's part of scaling it as well.
Well, damn, that must have been tremendously gratifying. I'm not talking about personal gratification, but just knowing that the cascade, the waterfall that you're creating is actually working, to get that validation from someone just randomly reaching out and saying, "Hey, you're on your way," right? So you know that it works. Now it's just a matter of doing it repeatedly, consistently over time, and eventually you hit that number. Because I think most people would look at a number like 3 billion and say, "Bah, you're nuts. Like, are you crazy? Who's going to do that? Like, what do you think you are, Elon Musk or whatever, Steve Jobs?" And the answer is, look, man, anyone can be that if they have if they have the right mindset. And that's what you're working on. You're proving out the mindset.
Absolutely. That is my focus. So a lot of fun.
Crazy. That's crazy. Okay, so now let's talk about how to actually scale a company, right? So you're having this impact. What are some of the things that you find people doing that you wish they wouldn't do? And what are some of the behaviors that you really like to see when you're talking to founders?
Yep. So I give different in the founder mentoring that I do. I give different advice to different people because it's very crucial that we give prescriptive advice, prescriptive to the industry they're in, prescriptive to their personality, prescriptive to their product, prescriptive to their team, their size, et cetera. And so when I say some of these things, they're going to be a little bit generalized, but when I do get into the mentoring, it's very prescriptive to the person. I ask questions all about them, their background, what they want, their goals, their CAC to LTV ratios that they're currently at, their copywriting and every exact word, et cetera. And I get very prescriptive, but I will speak generally to some of these things for right now on the podcast. Whether sometimes I'm dealing with pre-revenue people, sometimes I'm dealing with a $20 or $50 million company because I've been at the $65 million scale, the $1.4 billion scale, the pre-revenue, the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $40 million, et cetera. I've done the $100,000 a day meeting my budgets. I've done the $1,000 a day. I've done the $10 a day. And so when you see a lot of founders, they are not focused in where they put their time and energy. They are doing a lot of different things. And so you see lack of focus, especially with ambitious people. Founders, I'm ambitious. A lot of founders are ambitious. It's the normal trait of founders. And so one of the first things you see right off the bat is with very ambitious people, they're doing a lot, as opposed to picking the right order that you're going to do your things. So for me, I'll tell founders, I'm not telling you to not be ambitious. Definitely be ambitious. Definitely do 20 things or 50 things where most average people, and I don't say average on a bad way, I say it on a quantifiable way. Most average people are not going to do a lot of things. They might do one or two things, whereas a founder is normally doing 20 or 50 different things. Choose the right order that you do them. It's the same thing as when you're releasing a product, is if you release the more profitable product first, it's going to give you more of a profit runway as opposed to needing an investment runway or as much of an investment runway, which means you give away less of your cap table, right? So choosing the order of your ideas or products you want to release or the order of your tasks is an important way of getting things done efficiently just by changing the order and not doing them all at once. When I look as a VC investor and I look at a founder, and every investor looks at a founder and we see that somebody's spread across maybe multiple companies or multiple products or multiple services. And yes, caveat to knowing that I am spread across multiple things, but I'm also very calculated in the way that I do things. When you see somebody spread across these things, you go, okay, so that founder is going to be spreading their time, energy, and their money or our money across 4 or 5 different lanes, which means in those 4 or 5 different lanes, they're going to get 1/5 as far across 5 lanes versus if they just did 1 lane, right? And so I'm always getting founders to focus on what is the highest value thing they can be doing, because a lot of times they're pursuing a lot of different products or ideas or even tasks. Say you're doing just one product, but you're doing a lot of different tasks. I need to do social media right now, and then I need to manage this employee right now if I have employees, and then I need to do this networking thing, and then I need to, like, they're doing all these different things, and it's like, what is your highest value task that you need to do right now? We're releasing a graphic this week. Rocket Mindset is the company that we run for the founder and leadership mentoring. Montelier Capital is the VC that we run. We are releasing a graphic in relation to those that shows people how to track their time, energy for each action that they do, their time, energy, the cost of it, the value latency. So if you make a social media post and it takes you 15 minutes of time and it takes you 10 out of 200 of your daily energy points, this is the graphic we'll release this week. And it costs you free for that one. It doesn't cost you any money to do that one. It just takes your time and energy, and you quantify that energy. You, on average, make, say, $300 revenue for that action. And the latency is maybe you make that within 3 days, right? For every company, this will be a different calculation. But what we want people to do is calculate your actions, your time, energy as inputs, and then your value, which can be revenue output, or it can be a brand output, or it can be a de-risking in your company output, or it can be a security improvement value update. So value output, and what is the latency of that value? We want people to be tracking these things. And so this goes to that point of, like, a lot of people are not focused on their time, energy, and that's the first thing we have to address, because we're going to fix or improve or accelerate anything. We have to get them focused into what is those most impactful areas. And so we have to start tracking these things. A lot of people are trying to do so many things because they're like, well, this is good, this is good, this is good. And all of my mentors and all the people in the world say these 5 things are good. Great. Those are all good. But which one's the best one right now? Put points to them. This one's 20 points of value. This one's 50 points of value. If they don't all have revenue, that's fine. You can do revenue conversion domains, etc. right? From value. And that's why we use the word points, right? So focus of founders is really important. Time, energy balance management is important. People not caring about what other people think. A lot of people are still caring about what other people think. They're afraid to post online and build out their personal brand because they're afraid of what people are going to think. They're afraid to fail. We need people to get into that mindset of failing is where you get your learning. Learnings are the summation of your value, and those are something you'll never lose. In life, you can lose relationships, you can lose money, you can lose partnerships, you can lose all kinds of things, but you will never lose your learnings, and your learnings come from your failures. The nuanced learning comes from your failures. You can read things in books and podcasts, and I've learned a ton from books and podcasts, and they jump you up. But the nuances you're going to base your company on are going to come from your experience of shooting the basketball just that way after the 10,000th shot, of shooting the basketball in the metaphorical way for your company, and those nuances are what you base it on. And so those come through failures. And so instead of failing 10 times a day, you want to say, can I fail 15 or 20 times a day? Because that is increasing your value faster. You want to fail rapidly. It is quantifiably the way to get higher value faster. So we want people to get comfortable with failing, and that's easy to say and very hard for a lot of people to do. So focus your time and energy, start failing often and being comfortable with it. And that is something that you have to practice. So in the mentoring that I'll do, it's not just saying things, it's actually putting people on tasks and, okay, now go do this one, go do this one. Some people are easy at failing. Some people are not. Some people are easy at fixing up their time and energy. Some people are not. So there's time, energy management, there is failure. There is, and so running a great company, you need to focus on your time and energy, you need to focus on your mindset, you need to focus on your failure. You need to, the thing about founders is, especially starting out, you're trying to learn copywriting. You just left your 9 to 5, you know your one trade really, really well, which you're ideally taking some of that or a lot of that experience into your company, because that's the starting seed of defensibility of your company. And then from that seed of defensibility of your company, which comes from your life experience, personal and professional, you then create a path of increasing defensibility. Every company needs a path of increasing defensibility, and how you're specifically stepping step all the way through that. So you're starting with your 9 to 5, your seed of defensibility, and then you're going into a company and you're needing to add 20 other components. You never had to acquire traffic before. You were just working on some sort of product, right? Now you have to learn copywriting. Now you have to learn sales. Now you have to learn marketing. Now you have to learn pitching investors. Now you have to learn managing people. Now you have to learn managing time and energy across all these different things. And because you're going to be ultimately hiring people that are really, really good at copywriting or sales or engineering, if you were to try to get really good at all of those, which each of those domains, if somebody's really, really good, they spend probably 10, 15, 20 years in each one. So for you to say, I'm going to go get really good at all these, automatically puts you at a 500 or 800 year problem. Therefore, you have to get really good at looking in each of these domains that you want to get partially good at and say, how far is good enough for right now? And for you to be able to decide how far is good enough in a domain you know nothing about, you don't know how far is good enough, you have to rely on mentors and other people to say, okay, this is this thing I don't know about, and this is good enough. And also I'm going to listen to what some mentors say, or what some podcasts say, or what some books say, but also I have to mix it in with my own unique sauce and all the situation that I'm in right now, right? And so there's that challenge of figuring out what is good enough in a domain where you kind of can listen to other people, but you kind of can't, because it's got to be very unique to you, right? And so then you do that to a degree just to get to your first sale. You always want to get, what's the soonest date I can get to my first sale? And a lot of people try to build something too big, or they try to come to an investor like me and they try to ask for, well, I need money to be able to build the product to get my first customers on the platform. And me and every other investor is saying, no, go build a pre-software product to get to your first date of revenue. Don't go build a Tesla car with 1,500 plus car parts right off the bat. Don't go as a first-time founder. You should not be jumping into the health field necessarily, because that's a high feature complexity. Great, that's defensible. Great, that's a hard problem. And hard problems change your CTR, click-through rate numbers, and your CVR numbers, right? People will click through harder problems. So harder problems are better conversion, are higher LTV. But harder problems are not for first-time founders to do, at least as your first product in your first company. So you want to be able to choose a low feature count product. Feature count equals defensibility. Feature count also equals the number of weeks it's going to take you to build each feature to get to your MVP, to get to the first date of revenue, to where you can start to get a revenue runway, which affects how much money you're pulling in from an investor and how much cap table you're giving away. And if you gave away too much cap table, then you ruin your company right off the bat. So you have to choose a low feature count product to get started. If you want to go build Starbucks, don't go building a grande mocha cookie crumble frappuccino right after that. Go build coffee and water, just beans and water. Sell that for $1.50, $2. Don't get to your $4.50 drink. Don't get to your $5 drink. Then make money on that, profit on that, and use the profit to then finance your third ingredient, sugar, and then your fourth ingredient, caramel, and then your fifth ingredient, and build up from there, right? So learning all these different things, figuring out how much do I need to learn about each of these domains to just get to first date of revenue. That's the first focus of founders. How do I get to first date of revenue quickly? That's why doing a lot of different products at once makes that harder. That's why doing a large feature count product makes that harder. Choose a small feature count product, get started with that, get to profit. Now, even pre to a product, what do we need to look at when we're doing product? To sell a product, you can say, hey, I have this thing that's going to help you lose weight. Or I have this thing that's going to help you in this technology way or with depression or whatever, right? But to sell anything, you can make your claim, you have to back it up with your authority. Your authority is what makes the sales. If we look at any sort of sales webpage, sales letter page, anything, right? Your authority is what makes that claim stand out. If 5 people or 100 people in the world say they can help you lose 20 pounds, who's the best one, right? Every customer is looking for the best one. And so when an investor looks at a founder, we're looking for who is the customer going to choose, because who the customer is going to choose is who we have to choose, because that's how the customer chooses. So if an investor wants your company to make sales because that's how we're going to get the return, we have to look at from the customer's lens. The customer lens is choosing, I'm going to choose the best person. And so you have to be that best person. And so if you want to make more sales, it's not about changing your product. A lot of times founders get stuck saying, I need to make more sales. I'm not making sales. Oh, let me go mutate the product. And they spend time mutating the product and trying to change it to make the sale better. The sale oftentimes doesn't come from making the product better or necessarily just getting it visible. It comes from increasing your authority and focusing on a science of how you can increase your authority quicker. And there's a difference between authority existing and authority displayed. You could be the smartest person in the world on this, but if you don't communicate it well in the customer's language, they're not going to understand your product, or they're not going to understand your authority. So you need to be able to, in a momentum way, build up how people recognize your authority with follower counts, with revenue, with reviews, with testimonials, with other partners saying you're good at what you do. Because if somebody's coming to you, or if somebody's going to a mechanic to fix their car, they don't know who's the best mechanic. They just know based on testimonials and reviews of other maybe top recognized mechanics in the space who are third party, or customer reviews, etc. They just know, let me look at the reviews and let me look at the testimonials, right? We all look at all these domains, whether it's cooking or mechanic or doctor or anything, and we have to look at these third party areas, reviews, testimonials, etc., to judge, is this right? So you have to look at it from the customer's lens of, especially when you're giving them a product or service or teaching that they don't know how to assess your knowledge. They can't just hear you say something that makes sense. Making sense is one level of vetting, but there's some people that can make something make sense, and then the nuances are missed that matter, right? And so it's good for other people to recognize your authority. So increasing your authority is going to increase your sales. It's going to get you investment faster. Focus on the authority, increasing the authority, not just that. Now, when you get past these beginning stages of, okay, you've managed all these different areas of running a company that you need to just a good enough degree, you've got some first sales. Now your profit is generating your ability to build out a second product or even hire your first employee. Then you get into a more interesting and harder part of running a company, which is managing people. When you're in your first $500,000 or $1 million and maybe you're doing it by yourself, or maybe you have 2 or 3 employees, that's one thing. But when you get to managing people at scale and managing teams of people, you now have to understand insecurities of humans, communication, all of these different things. And that's where it really, really gets hard, because then there's roughly 95% of companies don't make it past, like, say, $2 or $3 million in revenue. And I don't remember the numbers. They change all the time, obviously, and depending on whether you're looking at the US, globe, et cetera. So, but a lot of companies don't even make it beyond that. And when you get into managing people, that is an even more difficult challenge, because then you're dealing with, how do you get people to work with people when you're not around, because you're managing teams and teams of people, and they have to be able to learn to work with each other. And so you got to be able to train them out. And so that's another part to scaling company. So there's a lot I can go into, but that's a high level of gravity ball. That's a high level of how to make a great founder. And that's a high level of company. And obviously I can answer any questions too, but those are some high levels.
No, that's fantastic. I think we just got about an hour and a half worth of information in 30 minutes. So I'm excited for the feedback on this. Any You've already talked very directly to founders, in terms of the things they should focus on. But if you were to leave them with a thought, what would that thought be?
I look at people in terms of investment for seed traits, right? Because you can't look at somebody and say, did you make $1 million or $10 million yet? Because that's a lagging indicator. I look for leading indicators, and leading indicators in humans, like their ability to listen. They already have their ambition, but I need a lot of people to listen. Listening is really, really important, and learning to listen in nonverbal. And getting good at your A/B testing side. So if founders can focus on anything, it's get really good at listening, get really good at listening to nonverbals, get really good at your A/B testing science, and get really good at removing your insecurities so that you can talk to a lot of different people and become that great gravity ball and value all human beings, regardless of what political spectrum they're on, country, culture, personality, age group, education level, income level, etc. Value all human beings. Most people I come into contact with have some issue with someone somewhere. They haven't resolved their insecurities. They don't value all human beings. And it is something that is essential if you want to be a high quality human being. And if you want to grow ambitiously and grow a great team, that is essential. So focusing on those like 4 or 5 things, whatever I said, listening, A/B testing science, valuing all human beings, becoming a gravity ball.
Unbelievable. I'm so happy that I got to talk to you today, Jeremy. I'm sure that our audience will be extremely motivated on hearing this as well. I just want to, I know you're very, very busy, so I really appreciate you taking out the time to talk to me today. And I don't know really what else to say other than thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Omar. I appreciate it. It was an honor being here.
Cheers.